This just changed everything for the Rams. A rival star receiver just received a record-breaking contract before the Rams can come to terms with Puka Nacua. What exactly does this mean for the Rams and Puka Nacua? Updates on that situation, all that and more on this episode of Rams Digest. And welcome back to another episode of Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Finehirsh. And before we get into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, trying to get there before the 2026 NFL Draft kicks off in a little bit over a month. So make sure if you're enjoying the content, hit that sub button, click that notification button, and click all so you get notified and never miss whenever we post our daily new Rams Digest video content pieces covering all things 2026 Rams NFL offseason. Make sure to leave a like on this video right now as well for the Rams to extend Puka Nacua, as well as the Rams did just bring back Larrell Murchison today as well, so make sure to leave a like on the video for that. Contract details still pending, but now we got to get to the major news of Jaxon Smith Njigba agreeing to a large contract extension earlier today, as first reported by Adam Schefter, and I'm going to get you that tweet from him right now. ESPN sources, Offensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl champion Jaxon Smith Njigba reached an agreement with the Seattle Seahawks on a 4-year, $168.6 million contract extension that now makes him the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. The deal averages $42.15 million per year and includes over $120 million guaranteed, both setting records for any wide receiver. The deal was confirmed by Win Sports Group. Yeah, this is obviously the key news of the day here, not just for the Rams, but for the entire NFL. JSN getting a huge, well-deserved contract. JSN had an amazing season. It was JSN, Puka, Ja'Marr Chase were the three best wide receivers in the NFL this past season. Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson being the top two highest paid. Ja'Marr Chase clearing Jefferson by about $3 million. And now JSN clears Ja'Marr Chase by a little bit over $2 million AAV. And now Adam Schefter also goes into what exactly this could mean for the Rams and getting a Puka Nacua extension done. That we will also get to right now. And Jaxon Smith Njigba's deal with the Seahawks is the latest jump in the wide receiver market, one that will impact their division rival Rams, who could be working on a Puka Nacua extension this offseason. Nacua is entering the final year of his deal in 2026 and now has a new bar to clear. And that's exactly what this means for the Rams. It's that how much are you going to give Puka now? You know Puka probably wanted more than that Ja'Marr number, which I am going to show you in a little bit, but overall, this price has gone up even more now in that Puka's going to want to be number one. And there's a case to make that he is the best receiver in football. Justin Jefferson obviously was held back a little bit by the quarterback play there in Minnesota. Ja'Marr Chase is great. JSN is great. But Puka Nacua is going to look at these guys and say, I led the league in receptions with one fewer game played. If I played the same amount of games, I probably would have had more yards than JSN. I probably would have won Offensive Player of the Year. So I definitely think that the Rams and Puka should take some time, discuss what the number is going to be. Because to keep in mind, a couple years ago, Ja'Marr Chase cleared Justin Jefferson by a few million. I believe it was about 3.5, 4 million-ish. And now we see JSN this offseason clearing Ja'Marr Chase by a little bit over 2 million. So Puka's going to want to keep that trend going. But we do have an update from Rams Wire and Mike Garafolo about what the Rams plan to do the rest of this offseason with this Puka Nacua contract and their strategy that we will be getting to right now. The price of Puka Nacua's next contract with the LA Rams probably went up at least a little bit on Monday today, when the Seattle Seahawks agreed to a 4-year, $168.6 million extension with JSN. It made JSN the highest paid receiver in NFL history at $42.15 million per year, a number Nacua will probably eclipse whenever he puts pen to paper. The Rams don't appear to be in any rush to get a deal done with Nacua, something Les Snead indicated this offseason when he said the team would focus on pending free agents in the draft before turning its attention to extension-eligible players like Nacua, Kobe Turner, and Byron Young. And this is another note, too, what this JSN contract does. It's going to make Puka want even more money than he previously did. Puka probably wanted something around that 41-42 million range just to pass up Jamar Chase. But now, with JSN getting that $42 million, he's going to want a little more than that. Is he going to want to go 45, match Patrick Mahomes? Which that's going to be a tough sell, I think, for the Rams. Although you're seeing the importance of the wide receiver position as a whole in the NFL. But the other thing is, other guys like Kobe Turner and Byron Young do need extensions. Again, I think one of them is going to end up getting traded at the deadline potentially if they both don't come to terms, just because I think it's going to be tough, especially with the McDuffie contract kicking in 2027, as well as the new deal to Jalen Watson and Cam Curl and Quentin Lake. I don't think it's going to be possible to keep all three of these guys. Puka's going to stay, but it's which one of Kobe Turner and Byron Young are going to go. That was probably already going to happen, but now this makes it even more likely. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo reported Monday today that he expects it to be a while before Nacua signs an extension, calling it a different situation than Smith Njigba's because of how many players the Rams have to pay. And that is a very valid point, and we are going to get to Mike Garafolo's quote right now. One second here as this loads. From Mike Garafolo, my expectation based on the conversations that I've had is it's a different situation with Puka and the Rams. A lot of young guys that they have to pay, and a lot of other business to conduct as well. So the expectation on my end is that the Puka deal is going to take a while and to be further into the summer before we see something happen there, and that is from NFL Network insider Mike Garafolo. Now, I certainly think that is a possibility, that it is going to take longer. I don't think they should sign him today, do a reactionary signing and just be like, oh, here's $43.5 million, for instance, Puka, take it, leave it, whatever. That's not going to happen. That's not how Snead does business. That's not how the Kroenke family has done their business. It's not what Sean McVay is going to want to do. They're going to want to sit down, figure this out. I think this is the right move because I think you do need to make Puka number one. It's just by how much. I think 43 flat would get it done, personally. Just to say he has an extra million technically because it's 43 and not 42 million. For pride purposes, sure, but I really hope Puka's not trying to go for that 45 mark. Not because he shouldn't get his money, but just because I think it's a bit of a tough sell for a receiver to be making the same amount per year as Patrick Mahomes is on average. And had the Rams gotten their deal done with Nacua before Smith Njigba signed his, they might have been able to save a little bit of money. With the way superstar contracts work, the next guy to sign is usually the one who gets the most money. The Rams could have set the bar for Smith Njigba and the Seahawks by signing Nacua first, but they're not rushing to the negotiating table. When they do, the starting point for Nacua and his agent will likely be $42.15 million per year. It will be, and if it's not, you need to fire your agent because that is not a good agent. So I'm assuming the starting price is going to be 42.5 probably, just to say you're already higher than JSN at your first asking price. And another big winner here is George Pickens. Because again, I don't think he's better than CD. He had a better overall year because CD missed some time, but George Pickens is probably like, if I put up another good season, I could be the highest paid receiver in the league, as this says, and the next guy to sign is going to get the most money. So that is the one downside here, although the Rams had to address corner. You had to do it. That's the one thing where I'm like, you had to do it. I would have liked Puka signed before Cam Curl, personally, but you had to address corner. Getting McDuffie and Watson, I do think, were the two most important things that the Rams needed to do this offseason. But more importantly, we just really have to understand just how great JSM was. I know we're a Rams channel. I know we're rivals with the Seahawks, but JSM was great last season. And you got to give him the respect he deserves. He was great at Ohio State. Kind of came in after an injury-prone year, so I was a little bit lower on him. Didn't do too much as a rookie, but especially last year, even in 2024, he made the Pro Bowl, which I actually did not know. But for JSN on the year last season, he was absolutely awesome. 17 games, all starts, 119 receptions on 163 targets, 1,793 yards, led the NFL, 15.1 yards per catch, and 10 touchdowns. Again, just an amazing player, even in 2024 as a 22-year-old. He had 100 receptions, 137 targets, 1,130 yards, 11.3 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns, being a Pro Bowler that season as well. So, again, fair play for the Seahawks, doing right by their players. Still only 23, going to be 24 at the start of the season. Actually, just turned 24 not too long ago, so going to be 24 at the start of the season. Still so young, still has so much to do in his career. So congratulations to JSN. Even though the Seahawks are rivals, gotta respect a great player. Fair play. And now we need to compare that to what Puka Nacua did last season, because that's who's going up against each other for the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Now, Puka Nacua as well had an amazing season after a very strong rookie year and a bit more of an injury-prone year too. Puka Nacua was great, obviously. Last season, he had 166 targets, 129 catches, 1,715 yards, 13.3 average yards per catch, and 10 touchdowns as well. And in 2023 as a rookie, obviously 105 receptions on 160 targets, 1,486 yards, 14.2 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns. So again, Puka Nacua, 24 right now, turning 25 in a couple months. So both of these guys, so young. But I think what's important to note here is Nacua's estimated market value based on SpotRack has him at $38.7 million, which would actually put him third behind Jamar Chase and JSN. And Puka's not going to settle for that. He wouldn't. On SpotRack, that's a 4-year, $154.9 million contract. It would make him a top 25 highest paid player in the NFL, but that's not going to settle. He's not going to settle for that, and I definitely think that Les Snead needs to understand that Puka's not settling. No way, no how. That he's not going to settle for anything. Now, do I think Puka is going to sit out and that coach Sean McVay should be worried about that potentially? I don't know. I don't think he'd sit out this year because Stafford's here, all in year, have a chance to win a Super Bowl. But if the Rams do win the Super Bowl this season, let's say, I like this video for that to happen, but if the Rams do win the Super Bowl, and then let's say Stafford walks out on top, which would be fair play, and you franchise Puka, let's say, because you're trying to make a trade for a quarterback, maybe Joe Burrow if that's an option, but that's just a hypothesis. Joe Burrow is not available as of right now, but if that is the case and they franchise him, maybe he would sit out entering the 2027 offseason program there at training camp. I don't foresee it happening this year, but it very well could happen next year. And as well, I think for Nate Shieldhouse here too, it's the fact that I don't think he wants any drama with this. Obviously, he wants Puka. He was one of the main architects behind the Stafford and Puka connection being so great this year. It already existed, but Shieldhouse blending them together with Devontae as the season went on. Kobe Parkinson, Terrence Ferguson coming in some big moments as the year went on as well. This whole passing game revolves around that Stafford-Puka connection, and I think for Shieldhouse entering his first year in a role as offensive coordinator, it is definitely important for him to have all of his pieces there and ready to go by the time OTAs for the younger guys and obviously training camp for guys like Puka and Devontae. But there is another thing to note here, and it's that for Les Snead, there are multiple other players that are extension eligible this offseason that the Rams can look to take care of. The first guy being Byron Young, a double-digit sack guy on the year. His estimated market value on SpotRack is $28.1 million, which is a 4-year, $112 million contract. Some comparable players to him are Nick Bonito. I think Nick Bonito is better at $26.5 million per year. Max Crosby's obviously better at $35 million. Nick Bosa at $34 million. You could say Byron Young is better if Nick Bosa's healthy. You could change that. And Montez Sweat, I do think Byron Young is better at $24 million. So he'd be making more money than some of those guys listed there. And for the Rams, is that the best use of your money? Potentially, not necessarily, especially because also another guy on our D-line, Kobe Turner, from that 2023 class, like Byron Young and Puka, is also extension eligible. His market based on SpotRack is $24.9 million, a 4-year, $99.7 million deal. He's being compared to Deron Payne, who's making $22.5 million a year, Zach Allen at $25.5, Nnamdi Madubuike at $24.5, and Dexter Lawrence at $21.8. That contract's looking more and more like a steal every season there. And for Les Snead, you're going to have to trade one of them. And you're going to have to sit down with your defensive coordinator, Chris Shula, to really figure out which one of them is more important. That's why I could see the Rams going D-line earlier rather than later in this draft, because if they don't come to terms, with one of them or figure out which one they want to keep, or if one of them says, hey, I'm not going to play if it's not this number for you, unfortunately, then you can move them earlier on integrate a young guy. You have good depth there already. So it is going to be important for them to figure that out, and Kershaw is going to have a big part of this as well as to who he wants to keep there. And now going back to the offensive side of things with Nate Shieldhouse, Steve Avila as well is extension eligible, and again, his market value on SpotRack, $17.6 million, a 4-year, $70.2 million deal, will make him the highest paid, second highest paid center in the league. He'd be getting more than Aaron Banks. He would not be getting more than Aaron Banks at $19.2 million. Wyatt Teller at $14 million, who is better than Elgton Jenkins, $17 million, just got released, so we'll see how that contract looks. And Will Fries at $17.5 million. So, again, there's a lot of things to note here. Steve Avila, I think, is a better player than Coleman Shelton, so I do think the Rams should try to keep him, especially because Sean McVay has talked about wanting to lean more into the run coming into this season, so I certainly think that is going to happen. But once again, for Les Snead and Sean McVay, it's going to be really all about trying to figure out who do you want to keep out of these guys. I think Steve Avila is a must for the O-line. Again, you could try to draft an interior O-lineman on day 2 as well, potentially here. Puka staying, obviously, again, depends on that number, what he wants. I think it's going to be at least $43 million to get Puka Nacua back in a Rams jersey. But overall, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made on this Rams team, especially on that D-line. Which one do you keep, Byron Young or Kobe Turner? Leave that down below in the comments. To me, I think pass rusher is important. I think D tackles where you don't have as much depth at D tackle in the NFL, so I think Kobe Turner might be more valuable in that sense. And Byron Young, you can get good pass rushers in the draft, I think, more than you can get better defensive tackles. So I think Byron Young would be the one to go. I think you'd have a higher trade market as well. So that's definitely important. Comment that down below right now, because this Puka contract is going to make things interesting, especially with the McDuffie contract kicking in 2027. Jalen Watson's new deal, Cam Curl, Quentin Lake, your O-line. Devontae is going to be off the books after next year, so that over $20 million salary is going to be off the books. Kyren's contract as well, which is well deserved. Blake Corum going to be extension eligible. We'll see what happens there as well in that offseason. So this Puka contract has a large ripple effect throughout the entire organization as to what they can do, because they'll go over the cap space a little bit. They'll pay a little bit of tax, but you don't want to be so far over like the Saints where you have to sell off a lot of players and you're kind of just stuck with your roster and can't really make too many moves. I don't think Les Snead or Sean McVay really want to be at that point whatsoever. But as always, I need to hear from you in the comments. And should the Rams make Puka Nacua the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL? To me, it's a yes. I don't want to go up to that $45 million mark. Again, I keep saying it, Patrick Mahomes, that is his average AAV. I don't want that. I think $43 million flat should be your offer, and I think Puka will take that. If no, I want to know why. And if no, then I would trade him if that's not what you're going to do. But me personally, I would make Puka the highest paid highest paid receiver in the NFL. And as always, March Madness time real quick. How are both your brackets doing? What's been your favorite moment of March Madness so far? Now that Iowa-Florida game yesterday on the men's side, wow. Did not expect Florida to lose that early. Had them in my Final Four. Obviously, I still got Duke, Arkansas, and Iowa State in my Final Four, so we're all good. Arkansas, Arizona, looking forward to that one in the Sweet 16 on the men's side. And Virginia beating Iowa, being the first women's team from the first four to make the Sweet 16 in tournament history. Saw that stat earlier today, so congrats to them as well. I know I went chalk with UConn, but I just don't see a world where you can beat coaches. UCLA looking good, South Carolina and LSU looking very good as well on that side. Leave your thoughts down below on both tournaments in the comments. But that is all for this episode of Rams Digest. Remember to hit that subscribe button right now. We're on the road to 6K, 6,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying the content over here and want to be part of the journey, hit that sub button, click that notification bell, click all, so you get notified and never miss whenever we post our daily new Rams Digest video content pieces covering all things Rams 2026 offseason. Leave a like for the Rams to re-sign Puka Nacua. Leave a like for the Rams bringing back Laurel Murchison. Leave a like as well for them to have a good offseason overall. Leave in the comments down below your thoughts on the Puka Nacua contract situation, how that changes with this JSN signing. And leave in the comments as well what you think about the Rams D-line situation as well. Do you think they can keep both? They need to trade either Byron Young or Kobe Turner? Let me know Comment down below your thoughts on March Madness. I've been your host, Joshua Finehirsh, as always. Thank you very much for watching another episode of Rams Digest. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon for another one, and have a great rest of your day.